Well, all right. Seeing as now that the Canadian federal elections are over, let's talk. Because I'm looking forward to this one. I've had this on my mind for quite a while. So, first off, the Conservatives actually got the majority of the vote. Now, if Conservatives were as deranged as Hillary Clinton followers, we'd all be fucking autistically screeching, going, but Andrew Scheer won the popular vote or some shit. But democratic elections don't work that way. And you know what? That's actually okay with me. See, the way I see it, going into this election, we had the Federal Liberal Party and the NDP saying, if the Conservatives happen to beat us, we'll just have a coalition and gang up on them and topple the government the people elected. So the Conservatives winning actually would have been more disheartening to me than what the outcome actually was with a liberal minority government. And I'd actually like to get into why, because this shit actually matters. So, when you have a bunch of commies and a bunch of progressives saying, we'll just topple the majority elected government anyway, that kind of flies in the face of the will of people, and that is fairly evident of politicians who are more concerned with clinging to power than actually serving the people. But we live in a democracy where things don't go that way. So I can live with this. I really can. Because on the plus side of it, when the Liberals had a majority government, they bankrupted the country. Justin Trudeau himself, our prime minister, whatever the fuck he is supposed to be, made an embarrassment out of us to the rest of the world, soured trade agreements, alienated us from our allies, and kissed ass to the UN, which is gradually being taken over by a bunch of authoritarian cunts. So, you know what? If it came right down to choosing between a conservative minority government that's going to get stonewalled and overpowered and steamrolled by a coalition versus a liberal minority that is going to get stonewalled for the next, 4 years. Because, the Conservatives are now the official opposition. So, for all of you butthurt Conservatives out there, and I'm obviously not one of you if it's me having to say this to you, take a victory where you can find it. Because the Liberals might have a minority government, and they're going to meet opposition from everybody, and in time, all of the dipshits in Winnipeg and Mississauga and Atlantic Canada, yeah, fuck you guys, you're all going to come to figure out maybe this wasn't such a good fucking idea. But at least the extent of the damage done by a Justin Trudeau, Prince of Pompous Faggotry, get the fuck over it, has made an ass out of this country. And you know what? If he can't do that with free reign anymore, because now there's an official opposition and he doesn't have a majority, take a win where you can find it, where at least, because the Liberals are not a majority, any scrutiny they fall under is not easily swept aside. Now, when you have a minority opposition that actually took more of the popular vote, simply by being the opposition government instead of an unopposed majority, that means that they've got a little more room to move the lever in freedom of information requests. That is not a bad thing. If we thought Justin Trudeau was under scrutiny before, we are in for a real treat now when there's actually an opposition party that can get the facts right from the sources and humiliate him with it. So I'll take that over a government that's going to be toppled by a bunch of pinko commie morons and liberals. So I don't think the actual outcome of this election is as bad as some people are making it up to be. Now, I mean, if this country ended up with a liberal majority, I would be lobbying for Western separation. I would be looking at moving the fuck out of this country if that were the case, but it's not. Now when Justin Trudeau gives $1 billion out of our GDP to some third world shithole that is never going to pay it back, we will see no return on the investment. Well, now he can't do that with a majority government that can just toe the line with the cover-up and the bullshit. That's okay. That's not a bad thing. Because now the next time he tries to pull that shit, there's a minority opposition with more of the popular vote that has a lot more leverage than they used to have. So here's my prediction for our next federal election here in Canada. I'm not going to go as far as to say majority conservative, but I think over the next 4 years of more of the same bullshit from our vainglorious Prince of Ponce. Like, seriously, Justin Trudeau is such an ass. He makes Naheed Nenshi look like a sensible human being. And that's a really far stretch for me to say, because I have no love or like for Naheed Nenshi. I think he's done terrible things for Calgary, Alberta, not Texas. He's done horrible things for this city. Everything looks prettier, but it's far more homogenous in a literal sense, not the way that you want to be offended by, and far more bland and boring than it used to be. And I don't mean that in a concrete jungle sense of things. I mean that in there's no more ma and pa kind of shops in Calgary. Nothing's independently owned. Everything has to be a franchise because the overall corporate structure of franchised establishments has more of a buffer zone to absorb Naheed Nenshi's constant tax increases on the people of the city. So when I say homogenous, I mean there's nothing outside of corporate bullshit in the city. And there's, as far as City Hall goes, it's a joke. The only two of those clowns that deserve to keep their jobs are Chu and Farkas. But we're not talking about that, so let's digress and get back to the point here, because that's what I'm making this video about. So look, for all the people that are all worried, the Conservatives didn't win, we're doomed, more of Trudeau, get the fuck over it. This is not actually the worst case scenario, and in a lot of ways it's better than we hoped it could have been. It beats voting in a minority conservative government and having to feel humiliated when it gets toppled because, frankly, democracy sucks. The electoral system of a democratic republic is way better and far more effective than just the democratic vote. I don't give a fuck what you think. That's the reality of the matter. I don't care about your feelings any more than facts do. Now, let's look at it alternately. We didn't end up in a position where the Conservatives get a minority government only to get toppled and overthrown by a coalition, Liberal and NDP. This is still a better situation. And I know that sounds nuts to say. I know, I'm listening to myself talk. I do it a lot, you can tell. But I would rather have a government that can't do much without the scrutiny of an opposition party in place than have a government with a vast majority formed by a coalition Liberal and NDP policy platform. Because one half of it would want to give all our taxes to another country entirely, and the other half of it would up your taxes $1,000 a year so you don't have to spend $600 at each point of purchase for a fucking trip to the dentist. Give your fucking head a shake, go read a book about economics, and then get back to me when you actually do some numbers. Because if you're citing Maclean's, you don't deserve to talk to me about politics. That's all I'm going to say about that. And you know who I'm talking to. Anyway, when it's all said and done, the outcome of this election is 4 years of Justin Trudeau not being able to embarrass us internationally and literally give our GDP away without massive scrutiny from a party whose voter turnout actually allowed them a position of being able to do their jobs effectively. That's a good thing. That's a lot better than let's all go broke over the next decade over some kind of bullshit. And look, this election cycle, I've heard it from everybody. Conservative is synonymous with racist, bigot, homophobe, sexist, fucking toxic masculinity, xenophobia, racism. Fuck off! Fuck off and fuck you! You don't deserve anything less, and I'm not sorry at all. Here's why. The communist I know lives in a house that was provided to him by his adopted mom. Frankly, I'm amazed that he is pro-choice, not pro-life. Given that his own mother felt the same way, adoption wouldn't have inconvenienced him. But we can't all be so blessed, can we? Now, the other liberal I know associates conservatives with being anti-diversity, anti-acceptance, anti-this, anti-that. No, fuck off and fuck you. Learn what you're talking about. Because I'm none of those things. And I will say this. If you wonder why I oppose your goal of free post-secondary education, here's why. I've known you for 10 fucking years. And you know what I've seen of you in 10 years? You've worked a fucking shit-wage job at a burger joint while being a perpetual student. If you are living off loans to subsidize doing a low-skilled job, well, getting an education, but never actually going into meaningful, gainful employment where you're paying back into the system you're looking for handouts from, you're not living on your tax dollars, you're living on mine, you uppity cunt. And that's a big deal to me. Because here's the thing. I'm a single white male. And I was born here. The fact that I'm born in Canada and at a disadvantage in my own country that my taxes have built up, I'm not the one who's fucking deluded. And when you say, oh, well, just up tax rates on the upper 1%. First off, the 1%'s a myth. Do some fucking reading, learn your shit, and get the fuck over the headlines you've read in Maclean's. You're an idiot. I'm going to ask a simple question. If you make $800 a paycheck and you lose 12% of it to deductions, you've lost less than $80. Now, if I make a $2,000 paycheck and I lose 12% in deductions, which, by the way, my current tax rate is about 29% if I get good write-offs. So if I make $2,000, you're telling me I should give up $800 for you to go to school for free when your income tax and shit off your paycheck is literally 1/10 of mine, but a proportionate ratio? I'm not the one who needs to go brush up on their mathematics and basic fucking economics. Point one. So, that covers that. I've said what I wanted to about the commies, the liberals, how I feel about the outcome of the election. Justin Trudeau is a fucking idiot. But then again, so are most of the people who voted for him. Because if that's what they believe in, y'all need to get the fuck off my case about being a Christian and believing in Jesus. Because you dipshits believe in Justin Trudeau. And communism. Herp and derp. End of rant. I'm done. Cheers, bitches. The bastard saint has preached. Anyway. Don't let it bum you out too bad. It could be worse. I could decide to run for office. That'd be way worse. Way worse.